Okay, in this session, as planned, we will look how to create a small pipeline, okay, which is a CI/CD pipeline with GitHub Actions and S3. Okay, what we'll do is that we will deploy a static website on AWS S3 with the help of GitHub Actions. Now, what we are going to do is that we are going to create a local repository on the laptop and a remote repository. We will create that on GitHub. Okay, so once we do a push, your code should come from your local repository to remote repository, and then whatever code file is there in the remote repository, it should copy to S3 bucket. So we also have to create an S3 bucket and enable website hosting on that. Once the data come to the S3 bucket, your website should be displayed. Okay, so this is what we are going to configure. Now, how this data is going to be copied from the remote to S3, that is by using GitHub Actions. Okay, now here one important thing that we need to understand, GitHub is also a tool, right? Now S3 is also service on AWS. Now we know that if GitHub has to get an access to S3, it requires permission. So to give GitHub permissions to access S3, what we will do, we will create a role, and to this role we will give permissions, so that GitHub will get permissions to access S3. We will see how to do that. Okay, now the steps involved to achieve this. As I told you, first we will configure a local repository, create a new Git repository on your local system. We'll create a file and do some simple operations like git add and git commit, okay, git operations, and then we will create a remote repository on GitHub. So we'll set up a new repository on GitHub to host your project, and then link local and remote repositories. Connect your local repository to GitHub remote repository by adding remote origin. Okay, we will see how to do that, and push changes to the GitHub. So whatever changes that we make on the local repository, we can push to the remote repository. And then if I have to give permissions for the GitHub to access S3, I need to create something called as OIDC, that is on AWS IAM, and then I have to create a role for this OIDC and then assign required permissions. Alright, and then create a S3 bucket, enable static website hosting on that, and then configure GitHub Actions for deployment. So create a GitHub Actions workflow to automatically deploy website on S3 wherever changes are pushed to the repository. So here I told, right, for the GitHub Actions to get permissions to push the data from remote repository to S3, I need to configure a GitHub Actions for the deployment. Okay, these are the 10 steps that we are going to do. First, I'll create a local repository on my laptop, and then we'll do little operations, and then on my GitHub repository I'll create a remote repository. First, let us do the steps 1 to 5. Okay, let me open my folder. Okay, I will go to my D drive. Let me create a repository here, create a new folder, demo CI CD. Okay, demo CI CD is the repository that I am creating. Alright, now there is nothing in this repository, right? Let me open Git Bash. Git Bash is a tool to do the Git operations on the Windows laptop. Now let me go to D drive, CD, D drive. So I'm in D drive now. Okay, let's say I want to go to the repository that I have created here. The repository name is what it is, demo underscore CI/CD, right? So let me go to git bash cd demo underscore CI/CD, enter. Now I'm there in this particular repository. Let's do ls. Is there any files? There are no files here. Now I want to initialize Git on this particular folder. That means I want Git to start tracking files in the folder called as demo underscore CI/CD. So for that, I'll use syntax called as git init. So now it is saying that initialized empty Git repository on this particular folder. Now whatever file that we create on this, Git will start tracking those particular files. Now let me create a file in this. I'll just use the syntax touch A. Okay. Now I added something, right? Let me see git status. Now it is saying that there are some untracked files in this repository. What is that file name? A. And what it is saying that? It is saying use git add to include in what will be committed. So if I have to commit some file, first of all I have to do a git add. So what is this git add? So now Git does not automatically save anything that you make changes. First of all, you have to tell Git that you have to save this. If you have to tell Git you have to save this file, you have to add. How do I add? By using git add. So git add, what is my file name? My file name is A. Enter. Okay, now let me see the git status. If you see here, it is saying that there are no untracked files. Now, but this is not saved yet. If you want to save it, we have to do a commit. Okay, how do I do a git commit? How do I save it? So it is git commit -m. That means you have to write a message why you are saving it. I'll say it is my first commit. Okay, the message is it is a first commit, and then enter. Okay, now if you see one file has been changed, there is a commit ID, etc. Now let me see a git status now. Okay, there is nothing to commit. It is very clear. This is what it is. Okay, now that means out of our 10 steps, I did this 3. We initialized the local repository, we created a demo file, we did some operations like git add and git commit. Now what we need to do, we need to create a remote repository and link the local repository to the remote repository. Let me open my GitHub. So this is my GitHub. Okay, now if you go to GitHub, it looks like this. Or let's say if you go to main page, home. Okay, now you see there is something called as new here, or else let's say if you open, it might look like this. Okay, when you open it might look like this. You see there's something called as repositories. Go to repositories. Inside this there's something called as new. Click on this option new. Okay, you can give a name to the repository. I'll name this also as demo remote underscore CI/CD. Okay, I'll leave this as public, and rest all don't select anything else. Select option create repository. Okay, now you see this repository is created, and I also have this repository. Okay, we can say this is a local repository which is there on my laptop. Okay, and if I do ls, you see there is one file called as A. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to connect this remote repository to my local repository. Okay, how can I do that? If you see there are commands here only. Okay, what it is saying, git remote add origin. That means first it is saying add this repository as a remote origin. Where I have to add, I have to tell in my local repository, okay, your remote repository is this. Okay, whenever I say do some action on remote repository, this is your repository. First of all, I have to add. So to add that, the command is git remote add origin, and this is the my URL of the remote repository, and enter. Okay, now I have added it. Now if you see the branch, it is master here. Okay, make sure the branch is main. Okay, how do you make sure the branch is main? By using git branch -m main. Okay, now you see the branch is main. Forget about what is branch now, because on GitHub the branch would be main. That is the reason, make sure on your local repositories also the branch is main. Now I'm using git push -u origin main. Okay, and enter. Now what it is going to connect to my remote repository, and whatever files it is there in my local repository, it is pushed to the remote repository. Now let me refresh this page and see whether we got the files or not. You see, this file A is pushed to this remote repository. That means whatever is there in my local repository now, it is coming to the remote repository. Okay, so what we have finished till now, we have initialized local repository, we have created we did the operations like git add, git push, git commit, and then we created a remote repository, and we linked our local and remote repositories. Okay, and we also push the changes to our GitHub. Whatever changes that I made in the local repository, if I push, everything is coming to my remote repository. This is also done. Now let me open AWS console, and first of all let me go to AWS IAM and create this OIDC. Okay, first let me open AWS console. I'm opening a new web browser here, AWS console, go to sign into console, next, and password. Okay, now I'm logged into my AWS console. Now what is that I have to do? I have to create this ODIC, right? If I have to do that, let me go to a service called as IAM. Okay, now once you come here, okay, there is something called as identity providers. Okay, this identity providers, make sure there is something called as add provider. Okay, and here choose this option called as OpenID Connect. Now here it is asking for a URL. So what is that we have to authenticate? I want our AWS to connect with GitHub, right? So the URL would be this one. This is standard, you don't need to change anything. And for this, audience would be sts.amazonaws.com. okay, you don't need to change this one also. This is common. And then select option add provider. Okay, so you see there is a provider which is there. Now what we need to do is that I need to create a role. Go to this option called as role, create role, and this role is for web identity. Choose a web identity. Now choose a provider. You will see the provider that you have created. Audience, same thing, and GitHub organization. So GitHub organization here would be, this is my GitHub organization, and then click next. I'm going to give a role access, administrator access, next, and the role name is git new role for demo. Okay, this is the role that I'm creating, and okay, all this is fine. Let me go ahead and choose option create role. Okay, now the role is created, and once this role is created, you see there's something called as trust relationship. Go to the trust relationship. Okay, we need to make, so this is the ODIC, this is correct. Okay, and This is also fine. Okay, we have to make few changes here. Let me take a notepad. Okay, I'm giving my repository. Okay, let me remove this. Remove this as well. Okay, this is my ARN number. Copy this. Okay, that's the ARN. Yeah, rest all I think it is good. Let me copy this. Edit trust policy. Okay, update policy. JSON strings must not have leading spaces. Okay, let me remove this. Okay, now it is updated properly. So till now what we have done, let me go back to, yeah, okay, we have created this, okay, and we have created a role for the OIDC. Next, let me create a S3 bucket on AWS console. Let me go here, go to AWS S3, go here, create a bucket. I'm giving the bucket name as my demo bucket for CI/CD. Okay, I'm just giving number 34 to make sure it is unique. I'll enable the ACLs. Website should be public, so I'm enabling all public access, and then create bucket. Okay, now bucket is created. See, this is my bucket. Let me go to permissions here, sorry, properties, and scroll down, and you see the website hosting is disabled. Let me enable it. Enable. My website code, I'll put that in a file called as index.html and save changes. Now if you see in this bucket, there is no file here. I'm not going to manually upload the file. I'll connect this S3 bucket to our GitHub. So whatever my local file is there, it should automatically come here and website should be up. Okay, that is what our agenda. Now if I see here, now you should be getting our URL for the website. Copy this and put that on the browser. Nothing will come up because there is no file in it. Okay, Now let's go to our git bash. Okay, let's go to our GitHub. Okay, now you see this is the my remote repository, right? In this there's an option called as actions. Go to actions. Now you see there are a lot of options here. Let's say if you want to deploy from IBM Cloud, if you want to deploy from GKE, by Terraform, etc. So there's a lot of options, but we will create a simple workflow. Okay, you see there's an option called as set up a workflow yourself. Now you see this workflow, it's have an extension called as YML. So this is the deployment file you basically write in a YAML language. So if you guys have to know more about YAML, so there is a playlist called as YAML. There are 4 videos. So you go through that, you'll understand more about YAML language. So this is basically very easy. It's like how we speak. It will be also be there in key value pairs, and you can create this YAML file. Okay. Now I'm just copy pasting the code, and I'll explain this. So this is our configuration file. The name of the file is what? AWS simple workflow. When it has to do, whenever there is a push from our local repository, main branch should work. Okay, and what is the bucket name? I have to give my AWS bucket name. So what is my AWS bucket name? Let me copy my AWS bucket name. This is my AWS bucket name. Copy and give my AWS bucket name. Okay, and where is my file? You see this is in US West region, US West 1. So let me make that change also in the file, US West 1. Okay, I'm giving write and read permissions. It will automatically create a Ubuntu latest, you can call it as runner, or a simple server will be created to run this configuration. It has to do what? It has to clone, check out, and AWS credentials it has to take. From where it has to take the AWS credentials? From the ODIC that we have created, right? Let me add that ODIC. Let me go to this AWS IAM identity providers. Go to this identity provider. You see there's a ARN. Copy this ARN. Go back to the configuration file here and add this. Okay, you see this is my ARN for the ODIC I have created. Okay, region, it's an environmental variable, it will automatically take. Now what it is doing, copy index.html to S3. So whatever index.html file that is going to come to the GitHub, it will copy to S3. How it will copy? By running a command. What is the command? AWS S3 cp index.html file. It has to copy to the bucket. Dot stands for local directory, whatever it is there. And ACL public read, that means you are giving a public access to this. Okay. Commit changes. Update YAML, commit. Okay. Now the workflow will run. Go to actions. You see create a YAML file. Click here. You see it is running. If I click on this, these are the different stages that is there. Okay, it is cloning the repository, it is configuring the credentials. So these are the different steps that it has to do. Okay, now it will not copy anything because we don't have any index.html file, right? Let us see running a dummy file. Okay, actually it is failed. It is failed because I have made a mistake. Let me go and edit this. Go to actions, view workflow, edit. Now here role which is there, right, I have given the ARM of ODIC, but actually I have to give the ARM of the role. So let me go to my AWS console, go to the roles. The role I have created, I think this one, git new role. Okay, now here you see there is an ARN. I have to copy this one. Okay, let me minimize this. Let me copy this. Okay, this is a change. That's an error, and I have made change, and I'm doing a commit change. Now if you see, this is updated. Let me go to actions, and you see this file is running now again. See, this is updating and it will run this file again. Now let's see. Okay, there is an error again. Okay, it is saying there is no index.html file. Of course, there is no index.html file. That's okay. Now let us go back, go to the git bash, and let us create a index.html file here. vi index.html. Okay, insert. Let me copy some code here. Let me copy some file here. Okay, this is in my local repository. Now let us do git add dot. Okay, now git commit -m, the message name index update, some meaningful message, and then it is done. Now what I'll do a git push -do origin. That means this index.html file should come here. Let me execute this. It's saying that there are some updates already. To make sure that it is equal, let's do a git pull first. Okay, now let me do a git push. Okay, everything is successful here. Now if you see, there should be a file that should be, you see this file. Now let's go to git actions. You see this is automatically running the pipeline. As soon as I do a git push, this is running the file here. Let's wait for a moment here. Now if you see, this is successful. Okay, that means if I go to my storage bucket, I should be able to see this particular object. Let me go to S3 and the bucket that I have created for this demo. I think this is the bucket. If you see this object, index.html file has come here. Okay, now let's go to this website and refresh this. You see, now I'm able to see this website. So that means we're able to configure the CI/CD using GitHub Actions. Now what I'll do, I'll go ahead and make some changes to this file. Okay, let's say vi index.html, enter. Now you see there is DevOps classes, right? I will change this to AWS CI/CD pipeline. Okay, I have changed this name to AWS CI/CD pipeline, and let me save this. Done. Now again, if I see the git status here, you see there is something modified. Now I have to do a git add, okay, and then git commit -m made changes. Okay, then git push -u origin bin, so that it has to push again. So it has pushed. Now if I go back here to the GitHub actions, refresh this, again this workflow should run. You see, again this workflow is running. So as soon as you push, this workflow will run. It is still running. Give it a moment. Now if you see, this is successful. That means a new file changes has been updated, the new files. Now let me refresh this. Now you see AWS CI/CD pipeline. That means now whatever changes that I make on my local and do a commit and push, automatically it is going to update. So this is a small pipeline for GitHub actions. So we are able to deploy a static website by using GitHub actions and AWS S3. Okay, in the next video we will do the same thing, but instead of hosting the website on AWS S3, we'll host it on EC2 instance. That is what we're going to do for the next session. All right, you guys have a good time. Take care.